Hello, we continue the conversation with the speaker of the Union International Movement Solidarity New World Order, Mr. Badri Tchelidze. Mr. Badri, please talk about the Manifesto of Solidarity, what underlies the emergence of a new economic mega-formation, and what are its main features.
Hello Salome, hello viewers, we continue the conversations. I will tell you the following about the first question. The basis of the formation of solidarity is the change of the properties of profit. Changing the properties of profit implies that the disintegrative nature of profit is replaced by its integrative nature. At first, decipher what profit is. Profit is the main driving force of the economy, what it is built on, the whole public or private economy, the whole capitalist system. Also, the main point of all formations was profit. The gain in the controlling mega-formation, in which we consider all 5 formations that humanity has gone through, had a disintegrative nature. What does the disintegrative nature of profit mean? The disintegrative nature of profit means that profit is separated from the production process and it is deposited in the accounts of specific businessmen, corporations, and other economic actors so that it does not return to the economy, or if it returns to the economy, just to make more profit again. Such a separation of profits from the production process and the economy causes the sums of money held by the population to be permanently reduced in direct proportion to the amount to which these profits are deposited in the bank accounts of businessmen and other economic actors. Society suffers by removing profits from the economy and production and engaging in its production to make more profit. I will say one more time that profit returns to the production process again and again to make more profit, and not to return it to the community and the people. The exploitation, overproduction, unemployment, inflation, economic crises, famine, and all the misery we have during this controlling mega-formation comes from here, which mega-formation includes the primitive community, then the slave-owning system, then the feudal and capitalist systems, and finally the socialist system. Why are profits deposited in the bank accounts of specific economic actors? Why does profit have a separable character from production? Because there is no single economic actor, there are many, economic actors, in case this profit is returned to the society by one of the economic actors, in which case it will go bankrupt. And this, no matter how well-intentioned it may be, on the part of any economic actor, if he returns the profits to the society, in which case he will go bankrupt and have no consequences for his noble behavior. The nature of profit can be changed only when all the property that is in the world today comes under one corporation's influence, one economic actor. What happens at this time? When production and its development make a profit, that profit goes back to production again, but that profit comes specifically in money, at which time money is filled with a new value since the profit is already integrative. And hence comes the main positive economic coup, which is the basis of the new economic mega-formation. What is the main point of this revolution? Let's take one economic producer and one economic consumer. Both the producer and the consumer will be globalized, and there will be one-by-one economic relationship. For example, one manufacturer who produces a product of $100 and will make a profit of $20, the same amount of money that circulates between the producer and the consumer at that time, $100 will become $120 in one economic cycle. Then in the economic coup lies in the fact that by diametrically changing profit traits, exploitation is replaced by its opposite, overproduction is replaced by full-time production, unemployment is replaced by full employment, inflation is replaced by deflation, economic crises and the crisis economy in general disappear. Of course, these are new derivate terms and are understandable to the viewers and listeners. Therefore, the economic system of universal welfare arises naturally. Economic globalization, which is going on today and is a normal, natural process, naturally gives rise to a non-exploitative economy, but only after economic and political integration is completed and a one-subject centralized economy is formed. By the way, Russia has an experience of a one-subject economy when the experiment was carried out after Marxism. Since the origins of the theory of Marxism, there are many grains of truth. There was one customer, one planning committee. The property was, on one hand, it was formally state property, but it was owned by the Soviet bureaucracy. The Russian economy and communism disintegrated, because in their time all state goods were formally state-owned, and it had real ownership of one of the results of a representative democracy called bureaucracy. The Soviet bureaucracy, which held virtually all state property, turned into a corrupt stratum, and largely through it the Soviet Union disintegrated from above, which was facilitated, of course, by the West. Global economic and political systems was in the 1960s and 1970s when the question whom arose as to which economic model would win, but it turned out that a privately owned economy was more viable than the so-called an economy built on public property. The private property economy overcame global competition from the Soviet economy and used the weaknesses that were precisely related to property and emerged as the global winner in the West. Today there is an irreversible process of economic globalization. Today in Russia, China, Asia, Africa, and so on, economic processes are governed conditionally by the dollar-cutting machine. Of course, it has its owners. The US dollar monopoly has shifted to the private sector since 1913. This machine has been around for more than 100 years. The US Federal Reserve manages economic processes. It takes government bonds from the United States, issues dollars in exchange for bonds. It finances primarily the central banks, the World Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and so on. The latter finance large and small banks, after banks, and through the pyramid scheme indirectly finance large corporations finance productions, and so on. It will all end at the bottom of the pyramid, where there is a consumer, the world community. That is, we have an informally centralized economy today, but it is not fully globalized. It is in the shadows. Economy in the final stages of globalization will not be legalized unless the world political system is changed. Existing global opposition political class. The world bureaucracy is also an economic class born of a non-economic political way, born of a regulated socialist market and representative democracy. It is the main brake on globalization and new economic formation. That is why it is vital to replace the regulatory market and representative democracy as the source and nourishing foundation of world bureaucracy with a free market and direct democracy, the latter being the key to the victory of international capital and its world bourgeoisie and its rise to world political power. Hence these fundamental reforms are dictated by vital necessity and are not a matter of taste or free choice. The post-Stalinist political system created after World War II and their successors Russia, China, and their allies North Korea, Iran, and others, which are an especially regulated economy, do not allow international capital free access to their markets because they lose financial independence. This is followed by a loss of political independence. If this system is not changed, if a new centralized political system is not created in the world, which ensures global economic and political freedom, the end of world globalization, in this case, the illegal and endless centralized economy, will not come out of the world bourgeoisie, which I talked about in previous interviews, which controls the US Federal Reserve and indirectly almost the entire world economy, cannot come out of the shadows. The globalization of the economy cannot end without total market liberalization. As for the nature of a globalized and centralized economy, it will be radically different from the Soviet economy, with what? On property issues. The real owners of the centralized and newly globalized economy will be the specific associations, individuals who still run the US Central Reserve and its founders, who still run most of the world economy. In the new system today, the illegal centralized economy will be legalized and formalized, globalization will end, and the world's historical key change of profit properties will take place, the transition to a new economic mega-formation, from control to solidarity. The real owner of the new economic system will be the owner of this centralized economy, unlike the Soviet system, which will no longer be destroyed by anyone. No one can dismantle this economy, it will be assembled so successfully. Many ask, there was no competition in the economy of the Soviet Union, there were social competitions, there they competed with each other based on enthusiasm and so on, based on faith. In the conditions of this economy, which is coming now, competition is not excluded, but is reaching a qualitatively new height. Just as the Soviet Union had one central planning committee and one client, the state and the executor were ordinary enterprises, it will be the same now, but now the centralized owner will be the main customer, and he will order each firm the products it needs, and will need for world customers and ordering. Competition and order fulfillment will be the basis of future competition. The means of production that the owners, the performers, will have will be in dualistic ownership. That is, it will be not only the property of the owner of the centralized economy, but also the property of the contractor, in which case the contractor will be interested in both personal gain and maintenance of the enterprise he owns. This transfer of ownership and co-ownership will be on a contractual basis. Each owner of any enterprise will be the owner himself and the customer will be the co-owner. This is usually practiced in practice, as is now the case, for example, co-ownership and partnership in various types of enterprises.
What does the informatization of management and economics mean? What can you say about sectoral information databases on management and economic transparency and their selective inspections?
The introduction of information technology is paramount in the political systems of the future, and then in the future economic formation as well. Management informatization is more important than informatization of the economy. What does management informatization mean? First of all, the informatization of the legislative system. The new public digital legislative system will not be able to function in any case if it does not include an information element. This includes public parliaments, voting systems, consulting systems, and so on. The demonopolization of the lawmaking, legislative system through its informatization is the main thing. We also talked about the demonopolization of law enforcement. The demonopolization of law enforcement involves the transfer of most of the government functions to the private sector, in which case, like economic companies, a competitive network of legal economic companies is created, including penitentiary, police, justice, court, and other sectors. Transparency information databases are created for each field, which will be public. These databases will have their inspectors who will be elected and will be inspected through these inspectors. Anyone violating transparency or faking universal transparency industry data. Today we have experience. Modernity has especially advanced in the direction of this informatization. For example, the public registry, the House of Justice, various government websites and so on, tenders, many things are done electronically. Informatization should go even further and free databases should be created for each branch of government through which companies in the legal field that will perform certain functions of the government will be coordinated and acted upon, and we will not have a government in the classical sense. Of course, the main structures will remain whose main function will be to forcefully guarantee the free existence and development of the public state. It should be special forces of different purposes and a mobile army that cannot be private. Other governmental structures should be transferred to the private sector and they will compete with each other to perform the functions that corrupt governments do today not so well. As for the informatization of the economy, the world has moved on here as well. It means that today the turnover of money is not physical, it happens electronically. There are bank cards, SWIFT systems, and so on. The informatization of the economy should go further. The tangible monetary unit should not be completely removed. Any person should be free to use tangible monetary units, but the bulk of the people, like 90%, today circulates more than 70% electronically, and it should go up to 90 to 95% till. It is convenient, saves time, money, paves the way for corruption, tax evasion, fraud, crime and the economy in general. It also reduces distances and makes financial economic relations more mobile.
How should the judiciary of a public state be formed?
We believe that the basis for the reform of the judiciary is the institution of free jurors today, when the judiciary, in addition to the Supreme Court, must be formed on a private basis. First and second instance decisions must be made by licensed competitive law firms in the field of private arbitration court type and the field. There should be courts of the first instance and courts of the first instance, similar to private juries and arbitrators, acting in competition with each other. These companies make decisions. There must also be competition between companies if someone makes an unfair decision that is not in line with the law, and so on. That company will certainly lose. The competition will be excluded from the market. This method of judicial reform will make the judiciary system much healthier, making the most objective decisions in a competitive environment. As for the function of the Supreme Court, the function of the Supreme Court should remain control of the public. The decisions of the last instance should be made by the society again and again, based on consultations of consulting companies on who to justify and who to blame when it comes to the cassation instance. It will be a free judiciary, it will be the most democratic judiciary, which is one of the main components of the future development of democracy. If there is no law and there is no justice, if there is no court, there is no business, no politics, and nothing. Judicial corruption in a violently existing system, when the world is a bureaucracy and this corrupt system suits all institutions, including the judiciary, is the highest level. The future court system, therefore, is two-step. One is a private court system, which operates on the principle of juries and private arbitral tribunals, and the other is a supreme, or cassation court, which should not be private and should be in the hands of the public. The public must make final decisions on any case that goes to the cassation instance. It should not be that the cassation instance will not accept this or that cassation appeal. Anyone who appeals to the Supreme Court should have the right to hear the case from beginning to end. It will be decided by the future society itself, but in the opinion of our union, the inadmissibility of the case in the Supreme Court of Cassation should be prohibited. This is briefly related to the topic of the future court system.
What is your attitude towards escalating tensions in the world into warfare, and what is your organization's vision for ending war and making peace?
Very serious events are unfolding in the world today. As I said in a previous interview, this controversy could have escalated into hostilities. Everything is fiction. We all say that we want peace, there should be no war, and so on, but is it like that? What is happening? There is a mortal vital confrontation between the international capital and the bureaucratic coalition. Now the question of how the world will develop in the following centuries is being resolved. Consequently, we do not want a war, the war must end, and so on. Everyone will say so, but, in my opinion, and the opinion of our organization, in no case can the foundations of the new economic formation we are on the verge of being established be undermined. What is this basis? This foundation is international capital as a result of the historical development globalization of the world economy and the economy, and, if you want, we can say the political basis for future economic mega-formation. The world bourgeoisie, the owner of this capital, should not be defeated. If this happens, the world will go to all spheres through disintegration, fragmentation and start a war against everyone. A new small and large feudalism will be formed, when fighting, unrest, chaos, uncontrollable weapons of mass destruction will begin between different states, and within the state, the battle for supremacy and again for world domination will intensify. No fight for world domination is necessary, the time for world domination has come, and whoever is ready for it lawfully throughout history, he must come to power in the world. It is therefore categorically unacceptable for us to defeat the West, but at the same time, on the other hand, we see that the bureaucracy of the world armed to the teeth is not going to retreat in the form of China and Russia and their allies. They are getting deeper and deeper into this war. Russia will not be able to withstand a long-term war, but this increases the risk that Russia will be fully involved in the war. Russia cannot be completely immersed in this resistance or the West, it will be a disaster for the world. Therefore, no one knows where it ends, but the only way is the way of negotiation. At what point will negotiations begin? Without negotiations, one will fail, and the other will follow up, and this will be a disaster for the world, but negotiations must take place in such a way that international capital is not defeated, nor are the peoples of the Eastern Bloc defeated. Their leaders sooner or later have to compromise power to the states they rule. They must be introduced by the West into a new system that together will ensure the free and natural development of the world. No one is immortal, neither Uncle X is immortal nor Putin is immortal. Years will pass, and they will still have to relinquish power. No one can stop history, this is out of the question. Therefore, as soon as these two forces have clashed, negotiations must take place. And making the limits of these negotiations. This is the current call of our organization in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Badri, for an interesting conversation.
Thank you very much for inviting Salome. Today we talked as best we could. Let's hope that everything will be fine both in the world and in our country. See you later.
We will continue this cycle of conversations, this time temporarily saying goodbye to you and the viewers of our channel. Thank you very much.